On this episode of Bite Sized, we are watching and discussing the 53rd scene of the movie Twilight. For those of you watching along at home, that's from 125:01 to 125:51. Just find some 5s and 1s and you'll be there. And now, on to the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Bite Sized. If this is your first time tuning in, here's what's going on. My name is Ben. I am your host, and I'm back after a long winter's break. I kind of went into hibernation there for a little bit. My apologies. If you're new to the show, if this is your first time, here's what's happening. I am watching the movie Twilight one scene at a time with a different guest every week. That means I find someone to be on the show and send them anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes of the movie Twilight, and we talk about it with little to no other context. That's what we normally do, but today we are doing things a little bit differently because instead of guest, I have guests. That's right. Joining me today for a combined fourth time, if you add up their previous appearances, I've got Lily Ludwig and Austin Packard. Welcome to Bite Size, the both of you.
Woo! Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. How's it going? How you doing?
Good.
We're happy.
Good. Thank you so much for helping me test out how to have two people at once on the show.
This barely counts.
We live together. This could really just be one of us.
No, and that's exactly why I'm doing it right now.
We have the same sense of humor. We're about to make the same jokes.
Yeah.
I'll say a joke and then you say it louder 3 seconds later.
Yeah, that's my way.
Good, as a man should.
Yeah.
I wanted to experiment with having more than one guest on the show, and who better than two people who, A, already know and talk well with each other, and also live together, so scheduling's very easy. So thank you for being a real softball for me.
Yeah, right after the baseball scene.
Is that when?
Ooh.
Oh,
Good
so
one.
this is going to be fun for you, Ben. I know exactly what's happening in this scene. I know all the context, and Austin has zero.
This is good.
I honestly thought in the clip that you sent us that I had to double check that you were still in the first movie because I was like, this feels so different from the clip I did ages ago. Is this the same movie still?
It is. Yes. Yeah. No, it absolutely is. Sometimes movies change over the course of their runtime. Things happen and action changes.
Yeah, idiot.
No, listen, if I see one clip of kids on a field trip, I assume the whole movie's about kids on a field trip and everything's fine.
Weirdly, that scene is more different than the rest of the movie than the one that we're doing today.
Well, it's the only part of the movie I've seen apart from now this clip.
Well, this is a nice segue into my first question of the interview portion. Oh, I forgot to say what you were when I introduced you. It's been a while since I've done one of these.
Good.
Yeah.
Comedians, podcasters, co-hosts of the fantastic Charm Scene podcast. Lily and Austin, welcome to Bite Size, blah, blah, blah. Catch up to where we are now. But Lily and Austin, what is your history with the Twilight franchise? It sounds like you have two very different experiences, maybe for those who haven't listened before. And maybe what role has Twilight played in your relationship, if any?
In our relationship, I think very little.
Probably
It
zero.
seems that way.
Yeah. I grew up your classic shit heel high school boy who's like, Twilight, as for girls, I hate this. I think I talked about this the last time I was on your pod, but a friend of mine had a cardboard cutout of Edward Cullen that we would regularly steal and sort of run it about and take photos with it in different areas all around town because of how silly we thought the whole thing was. But in all of that, I've never read it, never watched it. This is now the second clip that I've seen of Twilight. I'm aware enough of it. You know, I was on the internet while they were coming out, but
yeah, you've seen a combined about 2.5 minutes of this one movie. Lily, what about you?
I, at some point in my life, have read all the books and watched, I think, all the movies. I watched the first one again more recently, like within the last year or two. Oh, and I've played Jacob Black in not one, but 2 Shamilton shows.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever we get any kind of, I think one was an Edward Cullen show. And so I played Jacob as an antagonist. And the other was Dracula. So I think I was on his side because I was like, yeah, let's take those other vampires down. I hate vampires.
Yeah. For the listener, you're referring to the wildly successful Second City music improv show Shamilton, wherein you improvise an improvised hip hop musical about a new person every time. And sometimes you get Edward Cullen, I guess.
He's one of those characters. He's permeated. He's long lasting.
The people love him.
Yeah.
So that means that the two of you have never had the time honored Twilight fan, non-Twilight fan relationship experience of forcing your significant other to sit down and watch all the Twilight movies in one weekend?
No. And I'm honestly kind of surprised we haven't, because I forced Lily to watch a lot of movies she doesn't want to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm like, well, then I'm going to make you watch all of Parks and Rec. And you're like, yay.
I love Parks and Rec. This is also going to be a great weekend.
Yeah.
Right. That's not like a relationship chore.
I don't know if I would call myself a Twilight fan in the context of something like this. Like, you've definitely had people on this pod who are mega fans and experts. And I'm just like a casual enjoyer? What's the meme? I'm a consumer of Twilight, I would say.
Sure.
But not enough to force a boyfriend to watch it. I've made him watch When Harry Met Sally twice.
Well, that's a genuine work of art and a great film.
Yeah. Also not a chore, I would say.
I was very into Harry Potter as a kid, and that's where I always saw Twilight sort of as like the more angsty.
And when he met
Harry
Sally,
Potter.
it was nuts.
Yeah.
When Harry Potter met Sally.
Yeah.
See, that's a good title for
That's good.
Let's move into the clip we are talking about today. Not a lot going on. It's 50 seconds of driving in the dark. We start with a Jeep driving through the woods, and we end with a Jeep driving through the woods. In the middle is just a Jeep driving through the woods.
We do not end with a Jeep driving through
You're
the
right.
woods.
We end with a man running behind the Jeep
with a
through
man
the woods.
running far too quickly through the woods. In what is my favorite part of the whole clip.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll get to that in about
no
20 or so minutes, I guess, when we get to the end of the clip. But he's actually running at normal speed for him. But we'll get into that in a second. It's not a man. It's a manpire. Yeah, we start Emmett's Jeep. Edward has Emmett's Jeep for some reason, and they're driving through the forest, and it's very dangerous. It's completely dark, which is weird because in the last scene, it was not completely dark. It was like kind of dark.
Yeah, when they were on the field trip.
Yeah.
It was still pretty bright.
Austin, I don't know how to tell you this, but time has passed.
No.
I need you to gain some sense of object permanence here for a second. Things happened in the movie while you were not observing it.
They were a scene or two previous to this. They were playing baseball outside in a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's also a very intense scene. I think I've seen clips of that scene.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the more famous.
Yeah.
It's a weird hard cut from pardon the pun, the sun setting, maybe twilight-y time of day, to just immediately it's pitch black now. Like, it gives the impression that they have been driving for an hour, even though they are in the woods just outside of town, basically.
And he drives so fast.
He does. And he's a lot of the time not looking at the road.
Yeah.
Which I get is like a character thing for him.
Yeah.
Because he'll be fine if he drives into a tree, but his girlfriend in the next seat won't. Austin, you had a question.
Yes. Okay. You said this is Emma's Jeep? Emmett's Jeep?
That's his brother.
Yes.
I saw the Jeep and I, for a moment, thought you would send us a clip from Jurassic Park, because a lot of the shots of Jeep going through the woods are very reminiscent of Jurassic Park. Do you think that's an homage?
No, I think that's unintentional.
If we had seen James running in the rearview mirror, that would have done it.
That would have been really good.
That's the guy who's running in the end.
Hey everybody, Editor Ben here. I went searching to see if I could find any intentional homage between Jurassic Park and this sequence in Twilight, and guess what I found out? There's a man named Phil Tippett who worked on the visual effects of the original Jurassic Park movie and was also the visual effects supervisor on all the Twilight movies except this one. So that's nothing. That's not even like plausibly anything. All right.
Help me understand here.
Yeah.
So the
this is really what's happening right now. I hate to interrupt you, but I think this is actually a very nice analog to what happens in the meat of the scene, because we get just one whooshing shot of the Jeep and then we're inside the Jeep and Bella is just asking Edward a lot of questions and it's just a lot of exposition, sort of like Austin is doing to Lily and I now.
And I think it's very helpful.
That's good.
I think I figured out a good chunk of like the lore of this world just from this scene alone.
You have had in your appearances on this show, Austin, you've had two very exposition heavy scenes.
This is what I'm assuming the whole movie is. It's just people explaining a lot of things.
And you're kind of not wrong about that. So anyway, what was your question? I'm sorry.
I'm going to make an inferred guess about how vampires work in this world. They all have like a vampire power. Is that right? Because Edward there's some line about like his whole thing is hunting or whatever it is. And I read his mind. Is that Edward's power?
So Edward can read minds.
Okay.
All vampires have a certain base of abilities. They're all very fast. They're all very strong. Their skin is very hard. They have heightened...
And they're hot as fuck.
They are all hot as fuck. They all have heightened hearing and smell and senses and whatnot. And then some of them get extra powers. Like Edward can mind read. But James, as far as I'm aware, and all that I know about this comes from the movie. If there is extra information out there in the books or the Twilight wiki, I don't know it and don't care for it.
When's the book podcast?
Never. I have been very clear from episode 1. This is not about the books. I have never read those. I don't intend to.
Those are for nerds.
I need to keep a certain set of boundaries because if I start looking at the books or at the wiki, it's just going to get insane and I won't be able to keep up. We are strictly existing within the world that the movie creates for us. And as far as I'm aware, within the context of the movie, James has no extra powers.
Okay.
He's just good at smelling like all vampires are.
Well, there's some sort of a line in there about like, he's a master hunter. And I was like, oh, that must be his thing.
It could be.
I think he's just a dick. I don't think that's like a superpower.
Okay.
Like, you know how some guys are like, oh, I won't stop at anything to get the girl. He's just like that.
What happened to make him so mad?
He smelled Bella, and he smelled that she had blood inside of her and wasn't another vampire, and then he got hungry.
And he was like, can I eat her, please? And the Cullens were like, no, thank you. And that made him really mad.
And then Edward, by his own words, Edward's reaction set him off. And I don't remember exactly what happened in the last scene, but I don't remember Edward doing anything really big that would set someone off. So what is he talking about?
James is a tracker. The hunt is his obsession. I read his mind. My reaction to the field set him off. I just made this his most exciting game ever.
I think he's just like, hey man, she's with us. And James is like, darn, I really wanted to drink her blood though.
Edward protected Bella, and then they just wanted to start like one-upping one another, just like broing out and like trying to big dick each other or something.
I wanted to see them like walking, like strutting around in a circle around each other, like floating like peacocks.
That's a cut scene.
Yeah. They do like a weird bird mating dance.
Yeah.
That kind of does happen. They all just sort of like lunge at each other in a weird choreographed way. But yeah, Bella is now his most exciting game, and he'll stop at nothing until he gets this, just for the thrill of the hunt, really, is what we're learning here from the movie.
The fact that they're taking her far away is making him like more agitated and excited. Like now it's a game for him, basically.
And that's why they have to go to Canada.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
Away from Forks. We'll get a ferry to Vancouver.
I have to go home now. You have to take me home.
You can't go home.
And all of this transitions into my next point, because why are they taking her to Canada? What is up there that is not in Forks that would be helpful to them?
I have a theory actually for that one.
Yes.
And if there's a real reason, I don't know. But he says we'll take a ferry to Vancouver.
Yes.
And so maybe like even if you're really good at smelling, hunting, like dogs or something, you lose the scent over water. That would be my guess.
Interesting.
Like he wants to get her somewhere on boat.
No, I like that. That actually satisfies my curiosity. I'll hear it, Austin. I'll hear your worst example, your worst explanation.
James doesn't have a passport.
That's also
he can't
a possibility.
Go to Canada.
Yes.
See, this is how this podcast goes. Is you pose an interesting question, and I'm like, I have an educated guess, and you're like, well, that shut down that talking point immediately. This is why we need Austin to round it out.
James doesn't have a passport. He's too old.
Too old.
I've never been to Canada, but I assume Edward was going to Vancouver because when you cross the border, the Canadian Border Patrol, they stop, they want to see your passport.
Right.
They ask if you have anything to declare. They ask if you're a vampire. And so he's going to have a hard time getting to them. But from a more realistic standpoint, I feel like James is one vampire and the Cullen family is like 7 vampires. So isn't the best thing to do to just stay there and use your superior numbers to kill the guy that is chasing you?
Well, there's 3 of them, right? There's James and there's also 2 others with them.
There's James and there's Giant and there's Peach.
Again, Austin, you are accidentally not that wrong.
Yeah.
What?
Because
there's a big guy and there's a redhead.
And there's a redhead, yeah.
Whoa, James and the Giant and the Peach.
Laurent, Giant, but...
like a strong guy and
I really think their best bet is just take her back to the Cullen house.
Yeah.
And just sort of see who comes after him.
Because there's some line about like, we have to cut him up into 1,000 pieces and burn him.
Yes.
That's the only way to kill a vampire in this universe.
He's never gonna stop.
What should we do?
We have to kill him. Rip him apart and burn the pieces.
this makes me mad. And I might have mentioned this when I was
Why
on.
is that? You didn't because it didn't come up, but anyway.
What I know about Twilight, it bothers me that they care so little for the actual lore of vampires. Well, like for like the pre-established lore of vampires.
Okay.
That bothers me. Like, I know it's all fictional.
Sure.
At least I hope so. And it bothers me that they're like, oh, the only way to kill a vampire is to chop them up into a million pieces and burn them. Like, there are other pre-established means of killing a vampire.
Yeah. I think your idea of what pre-established vampire lore might be a little narrow, because a lot of, and this is something I think about.
Yeah.
This is something I've been thinking about a lot with the new Nosferatu movie. But it is amazing how much of what we consider as accepted centuries-old vampire lore comes from Dracula, the book, and then Dracula, the 1930s movie starring Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
And actually there's like a lot of what we consider just be basic vampire stuff is not that. And I think what's her name? Stephanie Meyer's influence in terms of vampire lore was more from Interview with the Vampire than it was from Dracula. But anyway, it's sort of taking established vampire stuff and doing its own thing with it in ways that I kind of like. Yes, Lily.
And can I say, I think, Austin, you would love to have the opposite complaint. If she was like, oh, I got my silver bullets or my wood steak, you would be like, wow, how unimaginative.
Oh, 100%. I really enjoy complaining about things.
I know.
I have to go home now. You have to take me home.
You can't go home. It's just gonna trace your scent there. It's the first place he's gonna look.
And my dad is there.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. He can get killed because of us.
Because her dad smells like her.
Yeah, because you smell like the house that you live in.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're a kid and you go over to a friend's house for the first time and you're like, wow, this smells different. Not like bad or good or like a specific smell. It's just like a different house
Just
smell.
like a specific detergent or like Febreze scent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about the most emotionally poignant part of this whole scene?
Please.
Which is this constant back and forth of Charlie and Bella trying to protect each other in this like heartbreaking parent-child kind of way. Charlie's her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And
Her dad's not in the scene.
That's who they're talking about.
He's mentioned in this scene.
She's like, you gotta go back. That's my dad. And like, so he's like a cop and she's a teenager and he's trying to protect her. And she's like,
but he doesn't know about vampires.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have this massive pivot all of a sudden to like her trying to protect him from this creepy guy. And like Bella and her dad have had some ups and downs. But like in this moment, you see like she loves this dude. And she is like, no, we're going back. Forget my safety. My dad's in there, you know?
No, it is a beautiful moment.
That's nice.
Bella says they have to do something, which is a bit of an overstatement because Bella is not going to be doing anything if we're being realistic.
What can she do?
No, but she does. And I'm not going to spoil what happens next, but it's heartbreaking.
It is. Yes.
I won't say. I'll say that for your next guest. You'll see.
She kills her dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. She puts him down. Yeah, she old yellers him because it's the only way to protect him.
She's like, Dad, look, you see the rabbits?
She realizes the only way to protect humanity is to destroy it. And so she does that.
Right.
She Ultrons her dad.
Yeah. It's a classic John Steinbeck novel, Ultron.
But like, honestly, there's like, I don't know, neither of them. I guess Bella is a little more level-headed, but Edward's really showing he's not cool under pressure in these kind of situations because his first instinct is to just run away when there's A, Bella's dad to think about, and B, you're just so much more safer here than you are just sort of skittering off to Vancouver.
Oh, but you don't get it, Ben. It's romantic that all he can think about is keeping her safe, and he'll do anything to make sure something happens.
The guy. It's the same thing we just mentioned, though. If he's got all these people, like he's also a vampire. He can read minds. That's very useful when you're fighting somebody.
Yeah.
And apparently he's got 1,000 vampire friends, and they're running from one guy in the woods.
No, exactly. And if he's willing to do anything to protect Bella, why won't he look at the road that he's driving on in the trees and the mud?
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Lily.
Why did they all just go to town clobbering the bad guys with the baseball bats they were already holding?
These are a lot of questions that we will never get a satisfying answer for. And really thinking about the way, Lily, you know this, but Austin, you don't, thinking about the way this plays out, they could have saved themselves a lot of trouble if they just handled it right then and there instead of what they wind up doing.
I don't know. It feels like if you're at a bar and somebody's harassing you, like deal with it then. You know what I'm like? Don't Don't let the guy chase you for 10 miles and then try to figure it out.
Especially if you're there with your 6 very athletic and strong buddies.
Right. Is this a part of Edward's like growth as a character? Like, does he have to learn the value of teamwork over the course of these films?
No, because I don't think Edward does any character growth over the course of these 5.
No, he just learns the value of hotness and growling.
Basically, yeah. He learns how to have a relationship, which is something that he learns in the first, 30 minutes of this movie. And then his character arc just sort of flattens for the next 4.5 films.
Is this James guy the antagonist of the film?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating having this conversation with you, Austin, who is completely blind to what's going on in this movie.
Well, my first scene was very early in the movie, so I didn't feel like I had missed out on much.
If you got a question about compost, Austin's your man.
I know.
That's true.
But dropping me into this one, I just want to understand the larger context. So this is the big bad guy of the movie.
Yes.
In as much as there is one, yes. I've talked with the previous guest about how the antagonists in this movie are really underdeveloped because the movie spends the first, 30, 40 minutes of its runtime trying to convince you that Edward might be the antagonist.
Oh.
And so when the actual antagonists finally are actual characters with lines and not just sort of whooshy shadows in a scene every 10 minutes, they feel a little underserved.
I'm learning I just need to watch this movie.
And I think if I could go back and make some edits to Twilight, I wouldn't spend so much energy trying to convince my viewers of something they already know is not true, that Edward could be the bad guy here.
Right.
We talk a big game around here about Edward and his thoughts upon entering this emergency, but I think we need to be honest with ourselves and ask, what would you do if you were in this situation, if you knew that a vampire was hunting you and would not stop until you were hunted?
Am I in the same position as I have learned Edward is in?
We're going to put you in the literal and metaphorical driver's seat of this Jeep. You're Edward. What do you do in this situation?
I go back to my strong family.
Yeah.
I go back to my strong, superpowered family and go, please help me. This guy wants to eat my girlfriend.
I agree with that.
Like, it seems like a no-brainer.
And I'm curious to hear Lily's answer before I give my opinion on this.
I have literal nightmares about stuff like this.
Really?
This is like less hypothetical for someone like me. Yeah.
She's been chased by real vampires.
Yeah, that's
in a Jeep through the woods.
I'm specifically talking about vampires. No, I have like literal nightmares where like I try to hide from some dude and he always finds me and I like wake up in a cold sweat.
Yeah. Okay, but let's reframe it a little bit. A vampire is trying to kill Austin.
Oh, different story completely.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, we're getting on a ferry to Vancouver.
Okay, from Chicago? Because I don't think they have those.
We got a big old lake.
Yeah, well, and some rivers to get through.
Yeah, I think probably water is the best bet.
Yeah.
We do both have passports.
That's another question I didn't consider until you brought it up earlier, though, Lily, is that they're getting on a ferry to Canada. Do they both, Edward maybe, but do they both have their passports on them? Like,
no, there's no way.
I don't think Bella bought her passport to a baseball game.
They go to school. Do they have social security numbers? Like, do they have like accurate, up-to-date identification, even though they're all old vampires that look young?
I think they're also really rich and can pull some strings.
It is established in movie number 5 that they have like a guy who can make fake identities for them.
Okay, so they might have, he might not have it on him. But that is a great question. I honestly think the more that we have talked about the Canada thing, this is like if somebody writes like a sitcom that's set in Chicago, then they're like, great, I'll meet you at the Bean. You know what I mean? Like, it's always like, you have to name things that are around there. And they're like, Forks is in Washington. You know, it's really close to Washington. Canada. It's right across, right over there.
I have spent a small amount of time in the Washington area. And by that, I mean 3.5 to 4 days. I don't think there is a ferry that will take you from Forks, where they are, to Vancouver. You would have to take another ferry or drive the long way to Seattle and then get on the Vancouver ferry there.
Well, especially not at any time.
Okay, wait, I have an Austin-esque posit now. So
Okay.
if vampires are real, maybe they're talking about an actual fairy, like with wings. And then she's going to pick him up and fly him to Canada.
You're being ridiculous.
There is nothing in what Edward says to contradict that.
We have no
When he
captions. We don't know how it's spelled.
Yeah, when he says they're going to the Vancouver Fairy, that could be Fairy.
Yeah.
It does still bother me. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on my other episode. It does still bother me that this universe, that they never expanded past vampires and werewolves, that they could have added in so many other mythical creatures.
You know, Austin, limitations breed creativity.
Maybe.
You got to draw the line somewhere.
I would have appreciated a little bit more rounding out of the world. Where's the leprechaun kid?
See, that's the beautiful thing about Twilight is you can write any fanfic you want. I would read what you wrote.
That's true.
Okay, I'm going to start writing Twilight in 2025.
You can pass that along to the creator of the incredibly successful multi-billion-dollar movie and book franchise and say, here are my notes, ma'am.
Yeah, you messed this up.
Here's how I think you can improve on your world building. All right, let's start to wrap this up. Let's start to land this plane or dock this ferry, as you will.
We can talk more about fairies if you want.
We don't have time. If you had to give this scene a name, what would it be? And this is also going to be the name of the episode, so make it good. And there's 2 of you this time, so good luck.
Ooh.
We'll say it at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
here we go.
That guy is running so fast.
That guy is running so fast.
So needs like 4 O's.
He's running so fast. He's as fast as the car.
Fast.
How did they get away?
That's a good question that we never answer. Who was that running after them?
That's got to be James.
I think it's Emmett, but I'm not 100% sure.
Emmett's like, give me my Jeep.
Wait. Hold on.
Guys, I can help. What?
Hold on. Stop everything. That's not James chasing them?
You know what? Let me pull up the clip again.
If that's Emmett, he's just mad they took his Jeep.
You know what? Well done, because I said that 3 seconds ago and you said it louder.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Well done.
Just like we
We're going to
planned.
high five into the mic.
I'm looking at this and I think it's Emmett. I think I see his trademark backwards baseball cap.
This is just bad filmmaking.
He's like, I had a 6-pack in the trunk. Get back
It's
here.
good filmmaking. It's suspense. You're supposed to wonder who it is, but we have the power to stop it and go frame by frame and see exactly who it is and remove all the mystique from
But
it.
by your own rule, this is the end of the scene, right?
Yes. Sorry. This is still within the scene, though.
I feel so titillated. I feel so lied to.
Let's start to really, really wrap this up now by asking you, Lily and Austin, if people want to find out more about you as individuals or perhaps shows that you do individually or together or even further, perhaps a podcast that the 2 of you co-host that I may or may not be on an upcoming episode of. How can people do those things and where and why?
Sure. Instagram is the best for all 3. Individually, we are lily.ludwig. That's Lily like the flower, Ludwig like Beethoven, and Austin Pack, which is spelled exactly how you think it is.
Yeah. And then our podcast is called Charm Scene.
Tell me all about that.
Well, yeah, you have no idea, do you, Ben?
Tell me all about Charm Scene and what it is and where people can listen to it.
It's an improvised musical podcast. It's set right here in Chicago. We bring on all of our wonderful, talented friends from all over Chicago's vast music improv scene, and we do fully improvised musicals with them. We hear a little bit about their time as a performer, and then we use it as inspiration. It's a super fun time.
Yeah.
Whenever this goes out, your episode will have gone out either well before it or just before it. So you can go listen to Ben's episode of Charm Scene right now.
But finish listening to this one first, so his analytics show that you listen to the whole episode, and then click off and listen to ours.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch the movie now.
Great.
Because I didn't realize there was action in it.
I would love to watch Twilight.
I didn't realize it went anywhere.
Again, not to prolong the outro of the show even further, but I think I've said on the show before that my introduction to Twilight was 2 kids at church who I had never met before and did not seem to talk to anyone else our age, but they would come in wearing matching shirts that say top 10 reasons guys should watch Twilight. So Austin, I'll find that shirt and send you the 10 reasons.
I can't wait.
You can think about it.
Because as we've learned from this podcast, a guy watching Twilight to impress a girl always works.
100% of the time, 100% success rate, always hits.
Yeah, Lily's still not sure about me. I
live in your house.
All right, that is it. That is all the time we have for this episode of the show. No, it's not, because I forgot to promote my own show. Dang, y'all. If you like this show that you're listening to right now, hey, maybe consider following it on social media at bitesizedpod_ on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, if TikTok is still a thing.
We'll see.
By the time we're recording this episode in what may be its last few hours. So maybe just Instagram then. You can also, if you want to reach out to the show, you can send an email to myfavoritetwilightpodcast@gmail.com, just like the few listeners that have reached out, including Itzel, who are asking, hey, what's going on? Where's the show? Is everything all right? Yes, I'm not dead. Don't worry. I just got busy during the holidays, even though I said I wasn't going to. All that information and more at twilightpodcast.com. I will make sure it's up and running again by the time this goes out. But that is it. Thank you to the band Swimwear Department for letting me use their theme song, Mauled to Death, as our theme song. It's not their theme song. It's mine. It's just their song. But anyway, I'll say it right next time. Thank you to Ben Oxford for putting this all together and making this sound good. That is it. That is all we have for today's episode. As we always say at the end of every episode of Bite Sized,
at Charm Scene Pod on Instagram.
At Charm Scene Pod on Instagram. That's what we say. See you next time.
Bye.
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 Yeah. We're doing your theme song.
Acapella. I bet that was the right key, too. I listened to this podcast.